I forgot about the old apartments in the other building.
Hi, Jen.
We are now live streaming.
Sometimes the phones don't even match the same time. How's that possible?
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Welcome to the August meeting of the Town of Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals. Ms. Terranova, would you read the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Hain.
Here.
Mr. Michaeli.
Here.
Mr. Storr. Mr. Tillmans.
Here.
Mr. Roblewski.
Here.
Mr. Zeller.
Here.
Chairman Monticelli.
Here. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to give you the order of the cases tonight, so if you are participating, you'll know approximately when your case is up. The first case is for 174 Stony Road. Case number 2 is 5825 Genesee Street. Case number 3 is 6375 Genesee Street. Our fourth case is 368 Pleasant View. And the last case is 48 Deer Path. Our clerk, Diane Terranova, is going to read the cases one by one. When your case is read, please come up to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and then tell us about your case. We'll go around giving the board members the opportunity to ask questions. Then we'll open it up to questions from the audience or comments before we vote. Okay. Diane, would you read the first case, please?
First case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Daniel Grisbeck, 174 Stony Road, Lancaster, New York, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing a residential accessory structure on premises owned by the petitioner at 174 Stony Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit: A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 16-foot, 8-inch tall residential accessory structure. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the maximum building height of an accessory structure of 16 feet. The petitioner therefore requests an 8-inch variance. B, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 1,152 square foot residential accessory structure. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the maximum size of an accessory structure of 750 square feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 402 square foot variance.
Thank you. Do we have a representative of Stony Road? Hi, come on up, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Daniel Grisbeck, owner of 174 Stony Road. In here for variance to build a accessory structure pole barn on my property.
Okay, and you're asking for a height and an area variance. Can you explain to us why you need those?
The height with the pitch, we're doing 12-foot sidewalls, and the builder recommends a 412 roof pitch on the wall, or on the roof, which would put us right at 16 foot. And then once we put the ridge cap on, it will actually be higher than 16 foot. So it's,
Okay.
the ridge cap is gonna take up a couple inches. So he wanted to make sure he got the variance to take that few inches of the ridge cap over.
Okay,
As far as the size variance, I'm just looking to do a 24 by 48 to replace an existing metal structure that's already on that exact spot that's not in the best aesthetically pleasing state. So looking to do something just a little bit bigger than what's there and get something that's a lot nicer for both myself and the neighbors to look at.
and can you tell us why you need to have something larger than the code allows?
I do a classic car collector, so I like to have something to be able to put the cars in the wintertime instead of paying for storage. And it also serves as area for my yard equipment and those kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to open it up for questions from the board. Mr. Hain?
Thank you. It does appear you're getting a little bit closer to the side property line. Have you spoken to your neighbors?
Yeah, I spoke with Sandy Kowalski. She's on that side of me numerous times about what we've been doing. So we kind of been planning this for a few years, and she's perfectly good with that.
Obviously, you don't need a variance for it, so it's just,
Yeah.
it's just more of a curiosity when you get close to property line. It's-
Yep.
It's nice to know that. And you did say you were replacing an existing structure, right?
Yeah, there's a metal Kwanzaa hut type building that's there now that's not quite as big as the one that I'm going with, but it has run its course and lifespan.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have no more questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hain. Mr. Michaely?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Michaely. Mr. Tillis? Sorry.
I just have one question. So there's a metal shelter in the back of the house there too. Is that an accessory structure? Is that attached to the house, or is that not there anymore?
The one that's right up closer to the
Yeah, the
house?
one that's according to the
that's-
survey.
That's still there.
That is still there?
Yep,
Is that's detached from the house?
correct.
Okay, wouldn't that also be considered an accessory structure then?
I think this
It
is
is.
the one you're replacing?
No, he's replacing the one back here, right?
Oh, okay, there's another.
There's another one that's closer to the house.
Yeah, I think it's a little
Right. So that count towards the square footage limit? No?
separate building.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was in total or, okay. That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Robluski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You wrote in here that the roof pitch was recommended, it was a 4/12 pitch from the builder, but 3/12 option is available. Could you do a 3/12 pitch, or is that going to significantly impact your area?
The builder felt that with the snow runoff, that the more snow would sit on there and you'd have more of an issue down the line with problems with the roof and with the weight of the snow down the line. So we recommended not going below a 4/12.
And if you did 3/12, that would be, you wouldn't need a variance then, or?
Correct.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep. Yeah, because he recommended the 4/12, we thought get the couple extra inches for the ridge cap.
Gotcha. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have one question. Is it just the building? Is there like an overhang? Is like a shed roof on this, or is this just one structure?
Just one structure.
No overhangs?
Yep, no overhangs, it'll have the regular typical soffits a structure have, but there's no lean-to, there's no accessory, things like that.
Okay. Do you plan on adding one to it?
No, we may do an awning off of the side at some point over our deck, since it's what I do for a living, but I work for Kohler Awning, so we may add an awning at some point, but that's not in a sort of current plan.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zelak. Do you have a plan for what the building will look like? I know you said in your petition that it's going to be an improvement over
Yep.
the metal structure, but I'm sorry, I've forgotten. Is your house sided or brick? Or?
It's vinyl sided currently, yep.
Okay, and are you planning to do vinyl siding on the pole barn as well?
No, that'll be metal, but it'll be the top of the siding, on the metal siding will be tan like the house, and then we'll have Brown's Wayne coating around the bottom, and a brown roof, because the house has a brown metal roof currently.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the board? Oh, I have one. Are you planning to conduct any business out of the building?
Like commercial business? No.
Exactly, nothing for profit?
Yeah, nothing for profit.
Okay, all right. Okay, does anyone in the audience have any questions or concerns or comments? There being none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And it's just for clarification, is this a motion to accept or deny?
To accept.
Okay, thank you.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Code Rules and Regulations is a type 2 action has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore it is not subject to a seeker review. That no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. That this requested area variance relief is not substantial. That the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. That the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. That this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief. That no commercial enterprise other than permitted by Chapter 400 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster be conducted on the premises.
Thank you, Mr. Michaely. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Who said second?
Mr. Wroblewski?
Thank you. Mr. Hain,
Yes.
Mr. Michaely,
Yes.
Mr. Tillman,
Yes.
Mr. Wroblewski,
Yes.
Mr. Zelak,
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli.
Yes. Congratulations. Your petition, your variance is approved. Just meet with Matt or someone in the zone, in the building department, and you get your permit and carry on from there.
Excellent, thank you
Okay?
very much.
You're
Enjoy your
welcome.
evening.
Thank you, you too.
You know.
Okay. Okay, Diane, would you read us the next case, please?
Second case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Christopher Hess, 5825 Genesee Street, Lancaster, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing an ornamental fence gate in a front yard on premises owned by the petitioner at 5825 Genesee Street, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 34, subsection A of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing an ornamental fence gate with a height of 8 feet and a front yard. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 34, subsection A of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires no fence or wall other than necessary retaining wall over 3 feet in height shall extend into the front yard of any lot. The petitioner therefore requests a 5-foot variance.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. May we have your name and address, please?
Christopher Hess, live at 5825 Genesee Street.
Okay, Mr. Hess, will you tell us about your project, please?
Okay, so I was in here a couple months ago, and I already had this approved for the variance for the height of the fence. This is supposed to be for a variance to have it closer to the road.
Okay.
By, I believe, 22 feet, I stated on the paperwork. Because apparently I can't have the fence any closer from my survey stake. I was told I could not have it any closer than 50 feet. So I asked for a 22-foot variance, I believe.
Already approved.
Right.
That's this one. That's the one now.
The one for the height.
No, this is for the.
That's already been approved.
This is-
I already have the permit.
8 feet.
The height of 8 feet. I don't have one for the distance.
I think it's because of the, well, so it does say here, height of 5 feet. It says plan calls for request an ornamental fence with a height of 8 feet in the front yard. It's because it's in the front yard now, that makes the difference.
Right, and we approved that, but now he's asking for a, to put it closer to the road.
Which, this isn't in the packet.
Right. Okay, don't we need a formal request? I'm confused, I'm sorry.
He wants to move it closer
Yeah.
to the street.
Right.
Correct.
We need,
Does.
don't we need paperwork to that effect?
We do, we have. So if I'll go first, if I may, 'cause I'll start. Yeah, I remember, you're good at this. You were here a few months ago. We gave the approval for that, and I think you realized right away, oh, shoot, I want to put it closer to the road, which means I should have applied for 2 variances, and here you are. So this variance is for having it closer to the road.
Correct.
Correct? Matt?
Yes.
So I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mickley. We don't need another,
This is it.
even though it doesn't say anything about the distance.
I don't think it's a matter of the distance closer to the road. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. This is now considered a height requirement in a front
In a
yard.
front yard.
Before it wasn't
Right, because
considered in a
it's-
front yard.
because it's-
So now it's a height requirement within
In a
the
front
front yard designation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because of
okay,
where it's being located in the front yard.
okay.
The gate's in the same spot that it was initially going to be. It's going across my driveway. It's just going to be closer to the road.
Okay, all right, thank you, everybody, for clarifying.
Sorry.
Mr. Tillmans, go right ahead,
Thank you, Madam
please.
Chair. I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Robluski,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
thank you. Mr. Zeland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hain?
Thank you, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. And I think you've clarified my questions. So does anyone in the audience have any questions about this particular request? There being none, do we have a motion to accept or
Make a motion.
approve or deny?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules and Regulations is a type 2 action and has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore it is not subject to a seeker review. that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to the nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. This board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief. That such fence will not unduly shut out light or air to adjoining properties. That such fence will not create a fire hazard by reason of its construction or location.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Wroblewski, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hain.
Yes.
Excuse me. Mr. Michaeli.
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans.
Yes.
Mr. Wroblewski.
Yes.
Mr. Zelak.
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli.
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Hess. Your variance is approved.
Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. You do the same. May we have the third case, please?
Third case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Brandon Williams, G Properties Revocable Trust, 6375 Genesee Street, Lancaster, New York, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing a residential accessory structure on premises owned by the petitioner at 6375 Genesee Street, Lancaster, New York, to wit: A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 20-foot, 9.5-inch tall residential accessory structure. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum building height of an accessory structure of 16 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 4-foot, 9.5-inch variance. B, a variance for the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 1,750 square foot residential accessory structure. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum size of an accessory structure of 1,250 square feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 500 square foot variance.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Will you give us your name and
I'm-
your address, please?
My name is Bridget Williams. I live at 33 Lancaster Avenue in Buffalo, New York. I am here on behalf of Brandon Williams as his sister, not his attorney. So Brandon is proposing here a replacement of a current very, very old wood barn that's located on this exact site on his property, which is, I believe, almost 9 acres. We're proposing a increase in the footprint specifically to accommodate a RV, which is 48 feet long and 13.6 feet tall. So this height of the RV requires a 14-foot door, garage door, and then the additional height comes from a pitch roof. The roof is pitched for aesthetic purposes and then, also snow safety purposes. The property, the addition of the structure does not encroach on any neighboring property lines. It brings the structure a little bit closer to the street, but as you can see on the drawings that were submitted, there's still plenty of setback. And the structure is this wide, 35 feet at its widest, 30 feet for most of the structure. There's a pop-out kind of man door little room on the side, and then it's 30 feet wide for most of it, which is the same footprint as the existing barn. So it's a new structure replacing one that's very close to falling over on its own that we inherited, and then it's longer to accommodate specifically this RV. So it doesn't have to be parked on the driveway.
All right, thank you. Questions from the board, starting with Mr. Tillmans, please?
I don't really have any questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Obluski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question about, did any of the neighbors that you know of, are they objecting to this going up?
Not that I know of. And there is a approaching an eyesore level of wooden barn on this location. The driveway down to the house is on the far side of either, so this isn't getting any closer to anybody's property line. The only people technically would be getting closer, I guess, are the neighbors across the street, but that's still with tons of setback and then 2 lanes plus shoulders of Genesee Street. So as far as I know, there have been no complaints about this.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Obluski. And Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair, I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hain
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
and Mr. Michaeli?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. I did stop by. I've got a picture of the barn here that you're speaking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better hurry up with this. Do something. It is pretty dilapidated.
We inherited it. We did not let it fall into disrepair. This
No.
property was purchased about 1.5 years ago.
I understand. And your brother just wants to store his RV there?
Yes, so it's wide enough for more than the RV. The RV is not 35 feet wide, but my brother is, as I'm sure you guys have a lot of people in here, a hobbyist with the motors. So he also has 9 acres of property to maintain, so he has a large riding mower, and there are garages in the house, but they now have 2 small children. Now we're parking cars inside the house. So I think he plans on storing some lawn equipment up there as well, and then tools and things like that. But I'm in anticipation of your question, no commercial activity out of this barn.
Yes, you did anticipate. Thank you. All right. Anybody from the board have any further questions or comments? Is there anyone in the audience who'd care to make any remarks about this proposal? There being none, do we have a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Hain.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings. At this area of variance for a single-family residence, according to Part 617.5, C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules and Regulations, is a Type 2 action and has been determined to not have a significant impact on the environment. Therefore, it is not subject to a seeker review. That no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicants to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. That the requested area variance relief is not substantial. That the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical environment conditions in the neighborhood or district. That the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. That this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second, Mr. Michaeli. And a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hain.
Yes.
Mr. Michaeli.
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans.
Yes.
Mr. Robluski.
Yes.
Mr. Zelak.
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Williams, you can tell your brother he's all set to go. He just needs to contact the building department.
Is it okay if I let him sweat it out for another half hour before I tell him? Okay, great.
Oh, sure, I like you. Thank you. I have brothers, too. Okay, Ms. Terranova, can we have the fourth case, please?
Fourth case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of petition of Genie Solar Energy on behalf of Upstate Niagara Cooperative, 368 Pleasant View Drive, Lancaster, New York, for one variance for the purpose of constructing a pergola with rooftop solar on an existing non-conforming use on premises owned by Upstate Niagara Cooperative at 368 Pleasant View Drive, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning Section 31, subsection C1 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 1,825 square foot pergola with rooftop solar on an existing non-conforming use. Chapter 400 zoning Section 31, subsection C1 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires no non-conforming use of land shall be enlarged or increased nor extended to occupy a greater area of land than was occupied at the effective date of adoption or an amendment of this chapter, nor shall any existing conforming structure devoted to use not permitted by this chapter in this district in which it is located, or a non-conforming structure itself or its use, if non-conforming, be enlarged, extended, constructed, reconstructed, or moved, except in changing the use of the structure to a use permitted in the district in which it is located, or to make the structure conforming. The petitioner therefore requests a variance to allow an enlargement of a non-conforming use to install a 1,825 square foot pergola with rooftop solar.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mary Stebline. I am an engineer with Labella Associates with offices at 300 State Street in Rochester, and we're the design professional for Genie Solar.
Okay, and would you spell your last name for me, please?
Sure. I have a...
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, and tell us about the project.
Sure. So Genie Solar Energy proposes to construct a solar pergola as an accessory structure at the Upstate Niagara Cooperative headquarters. The pergola would measure 73 by 25 feet and be adjacent to an existing patio. The solar panels mounted on top of the pergola would be a 25 kilowatt system. There would be additional items installed, including an inverter and a meter to support those panels. The location on the property is used by Upstate for event space currently, where they usually rent a tent to cover the area. The proposed pergola would not be visible from the public right-of-way or from nearby occupied properties, given its placement at the rear of the building, and that building's kind of set down a little bit from the road as well. The use and occupancy of the existing facility is non-conforming following the reassignment of the property from the residential commercial office district to agricultural residential in 2020, I'm sorry. And the current facility has an existing special use variance for commercial use. So this proposed pergola would be an extension of that existing variance.
Okay, thank you. I went out there and walked around the buildings to see where it was going to be placed. And right now, there's a patio with tables and benches. Where would the pergola be in relation to that?
So it would be installed to the north of the patio area. So adjacent, immediately adjacant to it.
Immediately?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not too much space there between the back lot line.
Okay, thank you. All right, want to start us off, Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of the pergola is to have events underneath it, or tables or whatever sitting area?
Yes, so instead of having to rent a tent for events back there, they would be able to use it that way. It's also yet another way to gather solar energy and use that.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hain?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michaeli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question really for Matt. I'm curious. Is the reason this is not, I'm assuming the reason this is not conforming is because the property is owned AR?
That's correct.
So Ecology and Environment built this building, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, and it was never rezoned. It was just always a non-conforming use.
It was, the occupancy was more of an environmental and agricultural use at the time.
Okay. So pretty much anything they would do here, as long as it continues to be illegal, lawful, non-conforming use, anything they would do, they'd have to get a variance.
That would be correct.
Okay. I have no more questions. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Mr. Tillmans?
I have no questions.
And Mr. Robluski?
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
All right. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments about this project? Yes, ma'am. Please come up to the microphone.
Just curious, out of curiosity, my name's Kay Gaffney. I live at 78 Hanover Street, across the street from your property. I know that the government does offer a lot of funding for this type of project. So my question is it a government project, or is it your properties?
Upstate Niagara's paying for this project. They will utilize the capital gains tax associated with solar power, but it's not, they did not get a federal grant to do this. They're taking out ongoing funds to build this. Their whole idea is they get a tent every year. You know, it's to reduce the cost of the tent annually and make a little bit of electricity too. Farmers come to the event constantly, and the farmers have asked, you know, for the upstate Niagara as a whole, when you're into Walmart, they need to improve their renewable footprint, so to speak, and this is a vehicle to start that process.
Thank you. I actually do like that you bought their property and it didn't turn into like a big public project, because it did keep it very natural living across the street from there. So I do appreciate that.
Would you give us your name again, please? We missed it.
Patricia Gaffney, Gaffney.
And Dane, did you give the address?
Your address?
Is 78 Hanover Street on Central Square Villas.
78,
8 Hanover Street.
okay, 78?
Yes.
Hanover? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I need the name of the gentleman who is speaking.
Yes. Sir? I'm sorry, we need your name and address as well?
Mine?
Oh, I guess we have it. Thank you.
It's okay.
Would you come up to the microphone, please?
Thank you.
Don't worry, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. We just need your address for the town.
Oh, it's 11 Kirkby Trail, Fairport, New York.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I built one of these pergolas in my backyard, too.
Oh, did you?
It's a nice-looking pergola.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? There being none, do we have an motion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings: that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to the nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Tillmans. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Robluski. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hain.
Yes.
Mr. Michaely.
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans.
Yes.
Mr. Robluski.
Yes.
Mr. Zelak.
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Devlin, your request is granted, and whoever's following up can just contact the building department for further instruction. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the last case, please.
The fifth case considered by the zoning board of appeals is that of the petition of Donald Wegst, 48 Deer Path Drive, Lancaster, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing a parking area on premises owned by the petitioner at 48 Deer Path Drive. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing a parking area 6 inches from a side yard property line. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a minimum side and rear yard for parking, loading, and stacking areas abutting a residential district of 5 feet. Petitioner therefore requests a 4-foot, 6-inch variance.
Thank you. Is there someone here from Deer Path?
Good evening, I'm Don Wex from 48 Deer Path Drive. My house is on a pie shaped, if anybody sees the, so even if you, I'm trying to replace what I have there and also to go back up to the shed that I had a permit for from last year, but the way the property line is, I can't even replace what I've got without having a variance. And that was a Marano, house. So that's really what it is. I need to replace my driveway. Driveway's the original, which was back in the early 70s, so.
So you're going to do concrete?
Yes, all concrete, yeah.
Concrete again?
Yep.
And then,
I'm gonna do the sidewalk, I'm getting ready for retirement, so I just want to get everything done so I don't have to worry about anything.
good for you. Matt, there was never a variance for this when it was originally constructed, the driveway?
Well, at the time of construction, the driveway was only 16 feet wide from the roadway to the garage door.
Okay, so this, this parking pad was not there at the time?
At the time of construction, no.
Okay.
They were like the third owner there.
Okay, and the pad was there when you moved
Yes,
in?
yes.
Okay.
And if you go all the way down to where the sidewalk meets, it's like right on the property line, even the original, because that's where the driveway came down.
Okay. So you're talking about, I'm looking at a picture, you're talking about pouring concrete between the driveway and the pad that's in front of the deck?
In front of the
There's a
shed.
little, I'm sorry, in front of the shed?
Yes.
There's a little patch of grass there?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And have you spoken to the neighbor?
Yes, I get along very well with Perry Culpa, and I already showed him exactly how I wanted to do it, and he didn't have a problem with that.
Okay. All right, very good, thank you. Okay, Mr. Bluesky, I think I may have skipped you last time.
That's okay. I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Mr. Hain?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions.
Mr. Michaeli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
And Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Okay. All right, is there anyone in the audience who has any comments or questions about the project? No, we need the driver. You're all together.
She better not be against me, or she won't have nowhere to park.
You have a lot of stuff in your driveway, according to Google area.
Well, actually, I have 2 trailers, but one of those are,
We have a full
I'm getting rid of one.
It's not even pie shaped. It's a strange shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and you should see the back, because when we put the back roof over the deck, I had to come in for a variance again, because I forgot how many feet that is off the backyard coming off of Pheasant Run. So, yeah, my lot is really pretty weird.
Does your property line follow that fence line that makes that?
Yes. It's pretty different.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Michael.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Code Rule and Regulations is a type 2 action and has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore it is not subject to a seeker review. That no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. that this requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Michaely. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tillman, thank you.
No, Mr. Haney.
Oh, they both
You
said
can have it.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'll give it to you.
I only heard Mr. Haney.
I owe you one.
Mr. Hain?
Yes.
Mr. Michaely?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Roblewski?
Yes.
Mr. Zelak?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Wegg, you're all set. Just contact the building department.
Okay. I'll come down and see Matt tomorrow.
Okay.
What? So I can get him to start going. Now I gotta go down for our concert.
Can't do the driveway for you.
Okay, is there any other business before the board? There being none, motion to adjourn? Mr. Michaely, motion to adjourn, second, Mr. Tillmans. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? We're adjourned.
Well done.
Okay, I thought it would simplify things if, and I didn't remember every case, but if when I ask for a motion, if I ask you to state whether you're